Join us on an epic journey that's an intrepid train lover's trip of a lifetime. We'll take you high into the hills.
Every 45 feet travel, there is 1 foot elevation.
On one of the world's best preserved Victorian era railways.
This is our signal cabin rooms.
We'll learn what goes into a perfect cuppa.
The young tender leaves have all the good stuff in it.
And get up close and personal with the local wildlife.
It's a great pleasure to work with elephants.
We'll meet the people that live and work along the railway line.
අපි පොඩි අරගෙන හතම කාලා යන ඉස්සරහට. කාලා ගිහිල්ලා මේ ඉස්සලම් ගෙඩිල්ල බැඳලා යන්නේ කම්බි.
And before our journey's climax, one of the great sights of railway engineering, 9 Arch Bridge.
This is amazing bridge and wonderful.
This is no ordinary railway journey. This is one of the most scenic railway journeys in the world. Sri Lanka. Our journey begins in Sri Lanka's bustling capital, Colombo. At the city's main railway hub, Fort Station. 200,000 passengers pass through here every day. We'll be traveling to the mountainous heart of Sri Lanka on the famous main line. We'll start in Colombo and travel inland to the country's second city, Kandy. We'll then climb up through the hill country and the endless tea fields around Hatton and past the quintessentially English city of Nuwara Eliya to the line's summit in Patipola. From there, it's a gradual descent to the beautiful resort of Ella, our final station, and the gateway to the incredible 9 Arch Bridge. We've a long journey ahead of us, so we're starting early. It's not yet 6 in the morning, but local historian Nighy is full of beans.
We are going to have the most beautiful railway journey from Colombo to Ella. This travels through the mountains and cascading waterfalls and beautiful bridges. That's one of the most scenic railway journeys in the world.
We leave bang on time at 5 minutes to 6. As dawn breaks, our Chinese-built S12 diesel-electric train pulls out of Colombo and into the suburbs. Even this early, our carriage is packed with commuters, holidaymakers, and day trippers. Space is at a premium.
Getting out of this hustle and bustle of Colombo is the first task.
Every railway recounts a piece of a country's history. Sri Lanka is no exception. From 1815 to 1948, the country was part of the British Empire. The railway is an indelible reminder of its period under colonial rule.
The railway started in 1863. It was built by the British with the idea of transporting the freight from the mountains to the ports. From Colombo to Kandy, it took 4 years to build it.
The first leg of our journey is the 75-mile stretch from Colombo to Kandy. Once we're out of the capital, lush tropical trees and paddy fields line the track. The landscape is fertile and flat. For a while.
This scenery is quite nice, but compared to what you're going to see next, this is basically nothing.
An hour and a half from Colombo, everything changes.
Now we are climbing. We are no more at the flat road. We are in the steep climb at a gradient of 1 to 45. Every 45 feet travel, there is 1 foot elevation.
We've reached the Alagala Mountains, our gateway to central Sri Lanka. The hour-long climb to Kandy will take us to an altitude of more than 1,500 feet. 170 years ago, it took a fortnight to get there from Colombo. Today, it'll take us less than 3 hours. The railway revolutionized travel in Sri Lanka. But building it over such inhospitable mountainous terrain was a mammoth undertaking.
150 years ago, with no power tools, so basically using hand tools and basic explosive materials like gunpowder was used to blast tunnels. It was very challenging. It cost a lot of human life. Hundreds of people died in this construction. While admiring the beauty of this climb, you should remember the people who sacrificed their life to make this possible.
At the top of the climb, Sri Lanka's second city.
Now we are in Kandy. This is the first major stop in our journey.
Kandy is the cultural and spiritual heart of Sri Lanka. Nestled between mountain ranges 60 miles inland from Colombo, the city is dotted with places of worship, including one of the most sacred sites in the Buddhist faith, Sri Dalada Maligawa, the Temple of the Sacred Tooth relic. Legend has it that one of the Buddha's teeth, salvaged from his cremation, a left canine, was brought to Kandy in the 4th century AD. Today, the temple that houses it is one of Buddhism's most important sites of worship. In keeping with the city's status, Kandy's railway station is one of Sri Lanka's busiest.
Kandy is a very big station, but the third place on the Sri Lanka. We have 72 trains every day at Kandy.
The trains keep running, and running safely, thanks to some very old school technology.
This is our signal room, signal cabin room. This is our heart of our station. All the change in signals, we'll do that here.
A signal cabin is a station's nerve centre, and this one, built by British firm Saxby and Farmer, has changed little since it was installed well over a century ago. Its solid iron levers, connected to semaphore signals and points up to 400 yards away, were built to last. And they have.
We have 63 levers in the cabin room. That's points lever and bolts lever and signal levers.
It's a demanding job, both mentally and physically.
We're using the iron bars and about 30 or 40 kilograms push. Very hard work, hard and very important work.
Soon our blue train will be climbing again deep into the tropical heart of Sri Lanka. A lush landscape where in 1 month alone, they can harvest over 20 million kilos of tea. We're in the city of Kandy, 75 miles into one of the world's most scenic railway journeys through Sri Lanka. Although our train will soon be heading onwards towards Nine Arch Bridge, one of the railway world's most stunning sights. Most trains do an about turn at Kandy, but some locomotives and types of carriage can only operate facing one way, so they need to be physically switched around. That's easier said than done, unless you have one of these. A glorious piece of engineering that's over a century old. Several times a day, a distinctive ritual unfolds just beyond the end of Platform 3 at Kandy Station. Locomotives and carriages are flipped around on this manually operated turntable manufactured in Manchester in the 1920s. It's a vital part of the station master operation.
This turntable will use 70 times of the week. Weekend days at about 15 times and weekdays at about 10 or 12 times. Two persons will push the turntable and we will turn the locomotives 180 degrees.
Remarkably, two men can turn a 60-ton locomotive in less than a minute.
It is very important because turntable don't work, we have big problem because our service is held up.
There are no such problems for us. We're on the move and the rise again. The next stage of our journey takes us south from Kandy through Hatton and its famous tea plantations and on to Nanuoya, a 61-mile stretch that will see us climb another 3,650 feet as we head high into Sri Lanka's fertile hill country.
This climate is ideal for these plants. We have 2,000 millimeters of rainfall, which is twice the world average. That's the reason that you have a lush greenery around.
There's plenty of time to take in the tropical scenery. Although our S12 class train has a top speed of 50 miles an hour, on this journey, we're averaging a leisurely 16. If that sounds slow, it's because we aren't always on the move.
If you want to experience the train travel in Sri Lanka, you have to be mentally conditioned for the stopovers and the slow journey.
If you're in a rush, the main line may not be for you. It's mostly single track, so a lot of the time is spent in sidings waiting for oncoming trains to pass. There are also more stops than you might expect. 18 in the 61 miles between Kandy and Nanuoya. At the small station of Watawala, 33 miles from Kandy, keep your eyes peeled and you might see Heen Banda. You could say he's a linesman for the county.
උදේ 9ට පල්ලෙහා ගියා. ආපහු ආයි 12ට මෙහි ආවා. ආයි හවස 3ට පල්ලෙහා ගියා. ආයි හන්දා 6ට මෙහි. ආයි 9ට පල්ලෙහා. ආයි 12ට මෙහි. සෑ 12ට. ආයි පහුවදා උදේ 6ට මෙතෙන්ට එනවා ආයි.
Heen Banda's been walking the line for 15 years. It's a lonely occupation, but a vital one.
එතන මම කරන්නේ කම්බි කැපෙනට තෙල් ගන්නවා. තෙල් ගාපු නැති වුනම කම්බි කැපිලා කුඩු වැටෙනවා. ඒක තමයි තෙල් ගාන්නේ රවුම් වලටයි චෙක් තෙල් වලටයි තෙල් ගාන.
Lubricating the tracks doesn't just prevent derailments, it's a money saver for the railway too. The oil minimizes the friction between the rails and the train's wheels, which massively extends the rail's lifespan. But that's not all that Heenbander does. He and his fellow linesmen are the eyes and ears of the railway, its first responders. And their standard issue kit prepares them for just about any eventuality.
ඉතින් රතු පොඩි. මේක දාලා තමයි කෝච්චි නතර කරන්නේ. මේක තියෙන්නේ හදිස්සිය කළා දැන් කම්බියක් කඩනම හරි ගහක් කඩාන වැටලා හරි සිලිප්පයක් හරි ඇවිල්ලා මොන හරි වෙලා තිබ්බොත් අපි කොඩි අරගෙන හැතම කාලා යන ඉස්සරහට. කාලා ගිහිල්ලා මේ ඉස්සලම් වෙදිල්ල බැඳලා යන්නේ කම්බිය. ඒ ගිහිල්ලා එහෙ දාලා රතු පොඩි දාලා කෝච්චි නතර කරනවා.
A novel but effective way to prevent a disaster. Even though the major cities of Colombo and Kandy are far behind us, our second-class carriage is still packed. Squeezing themselves in are Swiss holidaymakers Janina and Fabio. They're on their only break together this year, and they're trying something different.
I would say we're not train enthusiasts, and in Switzerland they're really expensive, so that's why we're almost never traveling with trains.
They've chosen the perfect journey to change that. So far, the main line is delivering on its reputation as one of the great scenic railway routes.
It's really nice going with the train because that route is really like with a lot of nice landscape and really green.
I'm glad that we took the train. It's cheap, it's a nice experience to stay with the local people.
It's not just a great experience, it's a very affordable one too. Rail travel in Sri Lanka is an absolute bargain.
It's like ridiculously cheap. It's only cost like €3 or something like that. So with €3 in Switzerland, you could not even travel with the train. You could only
use
take
the
the
toilet
bus.
for €3.
Yeah, but not taking the train.
Really happy about that.
We're approaching the city of Hatton.
The climate is getting a little changed. It's getting a little cooler now. Now we are reaching into the tea country.
More than 700 square miles of Sri Lanka, an area bigger than London, is dedicated to the cultivation of tea.
The entire mountains are like a green carpet. It's always refreshing to see such greenery, especially when you're coming from Colombo.
Sri Lanka is the world's fourth biggest tea producer, exporting 300,000 tons of the stuff each year with a value of more than £1 billion. Not bad going for a country smaller than Ireland. Industry veterans like Bernard put that success down to a happy combination of skill and setting.
I have been in this game or this business for the last 52 years. Sri Lanka is great for growing tea. I think the first primary thing would be the climate. The geographic location is very important. Distance from the equator, distance from the sea, height above sea level. Soil conditions, volcanic, also very well suited to the growth of tea. Tea plants need a lot of rainfall, a lot of water. Fortunately, our country is blessed with 2 monsoons. We have in this area an average rainfall of about 180 inches per annum. So our country, our land is ideally suited to grow tea.
Bernard spent most of his career as a planter. It's a misleading job title. Planters don't plant, they run plantations. As a producer of Ceylon tea, as Sri Lanka's is branded, Bernard delivered arguably the finest in the world.
I think the difference between our teas and a lot of other teas is that our teas are hand-picked. It is the eye and the hand that can select the right type of tea to pick. And so our teas are always considered better than many of the teas that are made by machine. What you see there is that our pickers are harvesting the leaves. The picker can pick anything from 6, 7, 8 kilos per day to about 20, 40, 60, 80, depending on climate and weather conditions.
There's an art to tea harvesting. Every leaf plucked is carefully selected.
I'll just show you what we like to pick. This is what you might call a true leaf and a bud. This is the ideal condition we need to have the leaf in when we harvest. That's the bud. And we like to harvest these leaves because the tender leaves have all the good stuff in it.
Nothing is left to chance. Each picking team's progress around the plantation is precisely plotted.
We try and harvest our tea plants about once in 8 days, maybe. We need to keep that cycle going because we want to pluck only the young leaves, because it's the young, tender leaf that produces a good tea. All the phenols, the polyphenols, the enzymes, the flavonoids, they're all in these young leaves.
Leaves which come from plants like these ones only. Anything else, and it's not the real deal.
People are confused because when they go to buy tea, there are hundreds of products pretending to be tea. You know, rooibos, chamomile, lavender, that is not quite right. That is not tea. Tea comes from one plant, Thea camellia sinensis, which means tea means tea. Camellia is the family it belongs to. Sino means from China.
It's 6.5 hours since we left Colombo, and our train now travels to Patipola, the highest point on the line. From there, it'll pass an extraordinary town trapped in time, before heading to a tropical paradise that produces flowers destined for Europe. It's early afternoon. We've traveled 125 miles since we set out from Colombo, and we're still gaining altitude as we head ever deeper into Sri Lanka's hill country. These apparently endless fields of tea aren't the only mark the colonial British left on the local landscape. Our next stop is Nighy. Not far from here is the popular resort of Nuwara Eliya. It's known as Little England because that's what it looks like to well, tea. Settling down for a cuppa is local Airbnb owner and history buff, Dilshan.
Nuwara Eliya has this colonial look because it was built by the British. Right now we are in front of the Grand Hotel. This hotel is the house of the 5th governor of Sri Lanka and was built in 1829. It's retained its British look pretty much intact, right? Even though the hotel has expanded a bit, it's pretty much, if we go inside the hotel, it's the same as what it used to be.
Nuwara Eliya's origins are as British as Eccles cakes or moaning about the weather. The city was founded in 1848 by Samuel Baker. Baker later won fame for his exploration of the Nile. Nuwara Eliya, on the other hand, at more than 6,000 feet above sea level, became British settlers' favorite refuge from lowland Sri Lanka's brutal summer heat.
Sri Lanka is a tropical country and it gets very warm during summer, and it's very difficult to stay in the lower altitudes. And since Nuwara Eliya is at a higher altitude, we have a much cooler temperature here. So that's why the British moved here, so that they could do their hunting and horse riding and their pastimes in their home country.
The British did all they could to make it feel like home.
You would think you were in the UK because if you look at the architecture, if you look at even the lawns and even the gardens, they pretty much resemble England.
Squint while taking a walk around the town's old colonial heart, and you could almost be in the Shires.
This is the Hill Club, and here's the golf club. This is the New Relay post office. I've lived in Britain for about 2 years, and this reminds me a lot of my time back there, because it's most of the buildings there where I stayed is very similar to this. This is about 150 years old, maybe 100, since the British colonized in the late 1800s. So it's been there since then. You can see where the company where it is made. Actually, it's Derby, England, right? So it's not been changed in any way. It's just been painted and still here since the colonial days.
We've been traveling for nearly 8.5 hours, during which time we've covered 140 miles.
Now you can see we are getting closer to the summit.
We're into the final leg of our epic journey into the mountainous heart of Sri Lanka. Our train now heads to an area of flower producers near Diyatalawa, and after traveling 160 miles from Colombo, reaches Ella, our final station, just before the world-famous 9-arch bridge. This is as high as the tracks will take us. At Patipola, they reach 6,225 feet above sea level.
This is a world record, highest elevation reached by a broad gauge railway.
Things are looking up for our Swiss friends Janina and Fabio too.
Actually, we gotta see it.
It's just great, just like really relaxing, and you can really enjoy the landscape.
Now it's that what I expected about the train trip. Yeah, it's much more better than before.
This path was well trodden before the railway was built, but not by man. The track follows a route originally used by wild elephants. 100 years ago, Sri Lanka's elephant population was more than 10,000. Today, there are a little more than half that number. The best way to be sure to see one is a day trip to the elephant transit home in Udawalawa National Park. At regular intervals throughout the day, an expectant crowd gathers. And dozens of elephants make their curtain call. Feeding time at the transit home takes place under the watchful eye of vet Malik. If he's looking paternal, it's with good reason.
This place is for orphan elephants. We are keeping them until they can survive themselves, and then we release them back to the wild. We are feeding them every 3 hours intervals. We're starting from 6 a.m. and 9, 12, 3, and 6 in the evening, and even in the night, 10 o'clock and 2.
Set up in 1995, the transit home is on the front line in the fight to boost Sri Lanka's elephant numbers.
Sri Lankan elephant is an endangered species. We have around 6,000 elephants in the country. Because of human-elephant conflicts, there are around 300 elephants are dying every year. There are many causes for elephants getting orphaned, mainly due to gunshot wounds, snare wounds, and some road traffic. Those are the common causes for elephants getting orphaned.
If they're lucky, orphaned elephants get a second chance at life, thanks to the transit home.
Normally, we are getting 10 to 15 elephants per year. We have elephants from 2 months to 5 years of age. We started this place, one baby, orphan baby elephant, and now we have 73 elephants.
Malik is on first-name terms with every one of them.
This is Pavani. This is the newcomer to our station. He's around 2.5 years old. Her mother died due to a gunshot injury last month, and we brought her here in last week.
The transit home's most important task is to nurse new arrivals back to health, hence the regular feeding sessions. What's on the menu might come as a surprise.
We are giving human baby formula for them. We are adding some supplements for this milk for maintain the balance of nutrition. Normally we are giving around 3 liters per one animal. Small elephants, they need more milk. So they are demanding and they are asking more milk here. That's why they are screaming here and fighting with each other.
Feeding time is the elephant's only interaction with people. They spend the rest of their time running free in the wildlife sanctuary of the neighboring national park. It's all part of the plan to reintroduce them to the wild when they're 5.
They are in the herd during the daytime. They are in the national park as a herd, and we take them to this place only for feeding.
It's a method that works. Since 1995, the transit home has released more than 120 elephants back into the wild.
It's a great pleasure to work with this kind of rehabilitation program. It's really fun to work with elephants.
Which is definitely something worth shouting about. We're only 25 miles from our destination, the fabled 9-arch bridge near the mountain resort of Ella. This final stretch of our journey is gently downhill, but the views from our carriage are as stunning as ever.
Look at the scenery. It took a long time for us to come here, but still worth the scenery.
There's more than just wild beauty on offer here, though. Isander's nursery brightens up a hillside near our stop at Diatalawa. It's part of a trade worth £11 million a year to Sri Lanka.
This is petunias. Petunias is the beautiful petunias colors. So this is the red colors. This is the people's is like the red color. මල් පැලවලට මේකයි මල් වගාවදී හැතරම ගොඩක් ඉවසීම තියෙන්න ඕනේ. ඉවසීම නැත්තම් මල් වගාව හරි අමාරුයි. මල් කියලා කියන්නේ ඒකට තමයි ඉවසීමට. මල් වගාවවලදී ඉවසීම තියෙන්න ඕන, ආදරය තියෙන්න ඕනේ. හරි වෙලාවට ඒකට පොහොර ටික හරියට වතුර ටික දීලා ඒ ටික ලස්සනට කරලා නම් වගාව සාර්ථකව කරන්න පුළුවන්.
Isander sells some of his plants in his own shop. But he ships the rest for sale, perhaps even by your local florist. Every evening, his blooms are amongst dozens of containers of flowers on the overnight train to Colombo. If they're loaded at 8 in the evening, they can travel in the cool of the night and be in the capital by 6 the next morning.
කෝච්චිය දාන එක තමයි තමන්ගේ කාලය ඉතුරු. වටින්නේ කාලෙනේද? කාලය ඉතුරු. දෙවෙනි එක තමයි කෝච්චියට දානවා කියන්නේ තමන් දවසක් වියදම් වැඩි. වියදම් අඩු කරගන්න පුළුවන් කෝච්චිය යනවා.
For many of the flowers, the railway is just the beginning of their journey. Their next stop is the airport, from where Isander's blooms travel as far afield as China, the United States, and Britain.
ගැන මම ගොඩක් සතුටු වෙනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි නිෂ්පාදනය කළා අපිවත් හිතන්නේ ඔහොම දෙයක් වෙනවද කියලා රටේ ලෝක වටේ යනවා කියන්නේ ගොඩක් සතුටුයි අපිට. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි 300න් ආරම්භ කළා ලෝක වටේ ගියා යනවා කියන්නේ මල් අපිට ගොඩක් සතුටුයි.
Back on the train, the lush green hills surrounding us are generating a cooling microclimate. There's a softness to the air that means nobody minds it's taken our express service, one of 4 to travel this route each day, fully 10 hours to cover 153 miles. Our journey's nearly over though. We're only 15 miles from our destination, the hill station of Ella, and the iconic 9-arched bridge, the celebrated Bridge in the Sky. We're travelling through the lush tropical landscape of Sri Lanka's southern hill country, 3,500 feet above sea level. Some of the most stunning terrain on one of the world's most beautiful islands. It's been 10.5 hours since we left the capital, Colombo. And after 168 miles, we're approaching our final stop.
We started with the sunrise and we are ending at the sunset. We have reached Ella. This is going to be the end of our journey. We spent the whole day traveling, but I think it's a day well spent.
As soon as the train pulls in, the platform is thronged with holidaymakers eager to sample Ella's famous scenery. But when the crowd clears, it becomes evident that the views actually begin at the platform. This is no ordinary railway station. But then, Ashendra is no ordinary station master.
This is the rose plant, my favorite plant in the rose.
Ashendra made it his mission to make sure his station dazzles everyone who passes through it.
This is my garden, the railway station garden. Foreigners is coming and it's the wow. They are very like in the garden, in the very beautiful nature.
The garden is just one of many improvements Ashendra has made since taking charge. Maintenance is another. You'd be hard-pushed to find a more spotless station. That's no accident. At 9:30 every morning, Ella's platforms close to the public, and a spring cleaning frenzy begins. Every inch of the station is buffed, swept, scrubbed, and watered.
I have the 9 staff. They are in every day, 2 hours working in the cleaning in our garden and washroom, toilet and platform. All team working to the every day in the morning 2 hours. This is the secret.
That hard work has won recognition for Ashendra and his team. In 2014, Ella Station fought off stiff competition to win a prestigious award.
Ella is the most beautiful railway station in Sri Lanka.
That is a sizable feather in his cap. Not that his uniform needs any accessorizing.
I am proud of Ella because foreigners from around the world come here. I want foreigners' first impression in Ella to be good, because if they are happy, then I am very happy.
Beyond the station, the landscapes around Ella are truly dazzling. This is some of Sri Lanka's finest scenery. It feels as if there's a lush mountain vista for each and every one of the town's 45,000 inhabitants. But for some intrepid travellers, the adventure doesn't stop here. Ella is the gateway for something even more spectacular. Just a couple of miles up the track is the iconic 9-arch bridge, a masterpiece of colonial-era engineering completed in 1921. Its 300-foot span soars 100 feet above the tropical valley floor. It's a sight that dazzles the visitors and makes some take leave of their senses. But it's also a huge source of pride to locals like Nighy, whose family runs a cafe beside the bridge.
I work with my family in a coffee shop. I make juices, tea, coffee, and soft drinks. I also earn some more money from here because of the bridge. Most people coming to see this, tourists and locals. Yeah, I like so much.
The British were the driving force behind the railway, but its most spectacular sight is the brainchild of a Sri Lankan. The colonialists originally wanted a bridge of metal and rivets, but in the aftermath of the First World War, steel was in short supply. Then, a local builder claimed he didn't need metal to build the bridge.
The British people, they don't know how to build with the stone, but the one local guy, his name is P.K. Apuhami. He's from Valimoda, very close to Nala. He knows how to make it with the stone. I think they use stone and some concrete.
According to local folklore, Apuhami and his men built 9-arch bridge in less than a year. The British were sceptical that the new structure would take the weight of a 100-ton train. So Apuhami put his life on, or rather, under the line.
The British people said, no, we are not sure. The train can't go. He said, no, I'm sure. You can go in the train. I'm guaranteed. And that time he gone under this bridge and sleep.
History doesn't record how Apuhami slept. But importantly, he did wake up. And his bridge is still standing proud almost a century later.
I tell people, all come and see the bridge. This is amazing bridge and wonderful. You must want to come to see this bridge in your life one time.
We've traveled 170 miles from Sri Lanka's west coast. We've crested mountain passes and journeyed through vast tea fields. We've gazed upon history still thriving today and immersed ourselves in the beauty of this wonderful country, all capped off by one of the railway world's most stunning feats of engineering, the bridge in the sky.
Next Friday at 8, we take in some of the best stunning peaks and lush deep valleys the world has to offer in great mountain railway journeys. After the break, we voyage to an island so sacred no one is allowed to live or stay on it. A Greek Odyssey with Bethany Hughes is next.